June 2023, there are 3 agenda items, namely 1, to consider and adopt the audited financial statements of the club for the financial year ended on 31st March 2023. 2, to consider and adopt the committee's report. 3, to elect a president and the new committee in accordance with Article 34A of the Articles of Association. The first item of the agenda, to consider and adopt the audited financial statements of the club for the financial year ended on 31st March 2023. As per the law and usual practice, the auditor's report is required to be placed before the meeting and read. Since the auditor's report has been circulated by post as well as through electronic mode to members, may I, with your permission, request Mr. Kanchan Kanti Jana, CEO and Secretary, to read the first and the last paragraph of the independent auditor's report. Mr. Jana, please read the first and the last paragraph of the auditor's report.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would now read out the auditor's report. Independent auditor's report to the members of Calcutta Club Limited. Report on the audit of financial statements. Opinion. We have audited the accompanying financial statements of Calcutta Club Limited, hereinafter mentioned as the club, which comprise the balance sheet as at 31st March 2023, the statement of income and expenditure, the statement of cash flow, and notes to the financial statements for the year ended on that date, including a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information hereinafter mentioned as financial statements. In our opinion, and to the best of our information, and according to the explanations given to us, the aforesaid financial statements give the information required by the Companies Act 2013, hereinafter mentioned as the Act, in the manner so required, and give a true and fair view in conformity with the accounting principles generally accepted in India of the state of affairs of the club as at 31st March 2023, its deficit and its cash flows for the year ended on that date. I would now read the concluding part of the report, which says opinion. According to the information and explanations given to us, and based on our audit, an instance of management override of internal control has been identified where proper authorization of payments were not followed. In our opinion, except for the possible effects of the weakness described above, which is not material, the club has, in all material respect, an adequate internal financial control system over financial reporting, and such internal financial controls over financial reporting were operating effectively as at 31st March 2023, based on the internal control over financial reporting criteria established by the club, considering the essential components of internal control stated in the guidance note on audit of internal financial control over financial reporting issued by the ICAI. According to the information and explanations provided to us, the club is also in the process of strengthening its internal financial controls over financial reporting to make them more robust. For LB Jha and Company, Chartered Accountants, signed by Ranjan Singh Partner at Kolkata on the 5th of June 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jana. May I have a proposer, please? Mr. Shumit Dev. Someone to note, please. May I have a seconder? Mr. Deepak Dutt. Now I come to the next item of the agenda to consider and adopt the committee's report. The committee's report has also been duly circulated by post as well as through electronic mode to the members. The activities of the club during the last year ended on 31st March 2023 have been summarized in the committee's report, and to avoid repetition, may I take the same as read? Thank you. May I have a proposer, please? Mr. Somnath Banerjee, seconded by Mr. Kullan Chaudhuri. I have received requests from members who have expressed their desire to speak at the AGM. I shall request them to kindly confine themselves in the item of agenda in question and try to be brief, not more than 2 minutes, as there are several items for consideration. Please remember that the most important function of the day is to cast your vote and exercise your democratic right to elect the new committee. May I request Mr. Shagnik Goswami to come to the podium. Mr. Goswami.
Members of the committee and fellow members, thank you for allowing me to speak. I will try not to be long, maybe a little more than 2 minutes, but I have one request. I shall be grateful for no interruptions. I'll start with a two-liner. Many years ago, in 1517, Martin Luther nailed 95 theses to a wall in a church. That sparked off the Reformation, the Catholic Reformation and the Protestant Reformation. I'm not here with 95 theses. There's not enough time. I have one or two. But I hope that they will spark off a reformation of this club. I won't repeat the unfortunate events that have taken place in the recent past. Everybody knows them. But I will talk about the root causes. And to my mind, there are two: the way we elect our office bearers and our blind devotion to notions of traditions, legacy, and continuity that prevent us from making much needed changes to the club. I am not here to point fingers. I am not here to accuse committee members, presidents, office bearers, anybody. I am here to hold a mirror in front of all of us as a general body and how we behave in the club. I'll talk about the election process first. We elect our fellow members to become office bearers of the club. I will repeat that. We elect our fellow members to become office bearers of this club. It is an honor that we bestow upon them. It is the highest accolade that we can bestow upon some of our fellow members. Yet, when we do so blindly. We do so without assessment most of the times. We do so on the basis of an entirely amorphous set of considerations. It is our responsibility and it is our duty to insist that they should be worthy of our election. Inheritance, tradition, legacy, seniority, rotation, right, these are not the basis for election. They cannot be. Only merit can be, competence can be. Merit and competence and integrity have to be the three basic pillars on which our candidates are elected. If we don't, then we know where we go. We can't have family, friends, cronyism trumping over these issues. It's not possible. If it is, then we know where we go. And if we have to assess them, we really need to know a little bit more about our candidates. We have a KYC that is sent to us, vetted by the club. This is a club with a 20 crore turnover, 60 crore balance sheet size, 3,500 shareholders as members, and approximately 180 employees. It's not small. It's a medium-sized company. No company on earth today will select people as their highest fiduciaries with the KYC that is provided to us. That KYC, the biggest thing that is there, it reminds me of Sukumar Rai. Seriously reminds me of that. That Sukumar Rai said, "Kintu tara uchcho ghar kongso rajar bongshadhar." শ্যামলাহিড়ি বনগ্রামের, কে যেন হয় গঙ্গারামের। That is all that is written there. Anything else I don't see. Their competence, their deliverabilities, nothing is available. How do I expect to assess them? We have to insist on this as members. It is not the committee's business, it is our business. Equally, I have talked about competency, I have talked about competence, I have talked about merit. Integrity is absolutely critical. It is a non-negotiable quality that our candidates must have. Not today, not going forward, but retrospectively as well. If we cannot have members and committee members and fiduciaries with integrity, then this club will fail. No questions asked. We will get disaster. If you have incompetent members, you will get some degree of inefficiency. If you have non-integrated, you have members with a lack of integrity, you will have disaster. Now, the question is, I've given you a whole lot of theses. What do we need to do? We have to define appropriate standards of risk, processes, controls, governance, operations, segregation of duties. And I am told that these are somewhere defined. But they have to be implemented, they have to be looked at, they have to be refined continuously. If they are not, then they just become static pieces of paper. And that's of no value. Mr. President, you mentioned one critical aspect of next year's challenges that the committee faces, which is the Charter of Demands, which is the lease renewal. I see another one, which is the Charter of Demands. Both of them require specific domain knowledge. And if the committee does not have it, it is important for us to assess whether they will hire or induct external experts to make sure that this takes place smoothly. If they are not, and it's going to be a closed shop, it will not work. Couple of other things, two more, not many more.
Mr. Shagnik, if you could cut short.
Two more.
You have already exceeded your
Yeah,
time.
I know, two more. We have to be involved. We have to have debate. We have to insist upon it. Open houses are absolutely necessary. Once a quarter, an open house in which we get debate is important. And the last one, legacies, traditions, everything change. Tradition cannot be a basis for stopping progress. If we need to change constitutions to reflect better standards, and for that we need to call for whatever we have to do, then so be it, and let us call it. Because traditions cannot be a basis for non-progress. Why am I saying all of this? All I'm saying is, please, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen here, vote with your conscience. Please, please, I beg of you. Because if you vote well, then maybe this club is on its way to salvation. If you vote ill, then it's certainly on its way to damnation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goswami. Your suggestions regarding the COD and open house, I'm sure the next committee is going to take up. Now, I would request Mr. Kullan Chaudhuri to come to the podium. I would request all the speakers to confine themselves to the agenda only. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. But it always pains me that you set the deadlines of 2 minutes and we have to adhere to it after coming prepared over a month reading your report. I think it is not fair. Your report is quite lengthy and you have to listen to the views of the members.
Because, there are other agendas.
Let me
that's why.
conclude.
Yeah.
Because I can assure you that I will take less than 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Be- because of only one reason today I have come to hear, not to talk. And what have I come to hear? I have come to hear just one thing. How is peace going to come back to this club? If you cannot give us a suggestion, a solution, I'm sorry, Mr. President, this committee and future committees do not have the right to occupy these ornamental seats. This is meant for leadership. This is meant for us to follow you. Why is so much of bickering going on? What is wrong with the club? We, the former presidents, and so many of us are here. You need our help, we are there. But I continuously get to hear, the committee has not asked us. I really appreciate that you came forward to take up the reins of this club at that critical moment. Please, please, take up the reins to solve all this bickering. Even today, there is a court case that is going on in the courts, high courts. All of us are brothers. If we cannot treat ourselves as brothers, we do not have the right to come and sit out here. Finally, two things. When we had the EOGM, we gave a mandate to ourselves that we would look into Nirupam Haldar's report, which focused on projects and investments. But after that, the then president gave us the assurance that SOPs and other club operational things will be looked at. This year I am sad to see that there is an operational failure. A room has been opened, a room has been used, but no billing has been done. And you are expecting us to pass this account. How can you expect us to pass this account, Mr. President? You yourself in one of your letters has said that the room has been misused. Why the gentleman or the person concerned couldn't be billed? May I have an answer? And if no answer is forthcoming, may I suggest this audience to ask for another forensic report. This is high time that we only do this cosmetic changes. Let us look into the real changes that we need. Why should a room be opened up and used and still not billed? Mr. President, I would like to end with this and with a note of optimism. And that is, we have all been stewarding or heading a lot of clubs. We know that there is an inquiry going on from the Ministry of Company Affairs. Do you think that if we cannot solve our own problems, then they are going to sit idle? They have done it in other clubs. That day is not far away when you will find someone else coming in from outside and taking charge. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. Now I'd request Dr. Amitabh Mukherjee to come to the podium.
Thank you very much, President. My beloved members and members of the Presidium. Today, before we do anything, let us thank the Almighty that we are actually holding the AGM in this place and this stead today. Such was the tremendous pressure in the last 3 days of an injunction coming and thwarting this annual general meeting. I know of 2 people who are seated on this dais, spent sleepless nights running from pillar to post, trying to hire lawyers, trying to do everything that they could to ensure that this meeting takes place. And why did that happen? is my question before this august audience. We have had a leader who had a problem concerning his pattern of operation. Every single time he would face the committee, challenge their decisions in court or outside, go back, come back, and repeat the same problem time and again. He is one of the more favored persons because of his father. Very recently, I stopped him over here and I told him that, look, we would want to see you in a much, much more active way, given your goodness, given the background that you have. Shagnik just said background doesn't matter, but had he seen the barrister and committee member operate over here and his sudden death take him away from our midst, he wouldn't have said this thing. However, be that as it may, I told him what Ramakrishna Paramahansa had said, that one who is possessed by a demon will not know that he is possessed, but the entire community will. ঠাকুরের ভাষায় যাকে ভূতে ধরে সে টের পায় না, কিন্তু গ্রাম শুদ্ধ লোক অতিষ্ঠ হয়ে যায়. That is exactly what has happened. I refuse to believe that a leader of this august club has actually tried to thwart the AGM. And with him was another person who is also present in this room today, who supported the principle of thwarting the AGM. AGM is our festival. It is our birthright when we become members of this club. What the action is amounts to cannibalism, nothing short. You eating your own self, your own kind. People have stood by us, people have fought by us. And if you go through the different WhatsApp messages that you get about the club, everybody's lament seems to be that we have seen better days. The past was better. The past is not going to come back to you, number one. And in my humble opinion, the past was not as good as the present is. Every which way you look at these wonderful people who have made this club what it is today and has given us service, we owe it to them not to be maligned. Every now and then a letter would come saying that such and such is a chore. What can I say? When the specific instance mentioned over there happened at a time when I was the governor of Rotary 20 years back, and I know it to be untrue. My friends, the past was great, but the past forgot to pay 100 years fees to the Calcutta Municipal Corporation for the trade license. 9 licenses were in arrears of between 10 to 100 years. Can you imagine, you talk about a company of this size, can you imagine a company running without a trade license for 100 years? When approached by the person, by the committee concerned, the mayor said that I need to fine you for this. And as we all know, if it is a 100-year arrear, then the penalty would be another 100 years fees. Ultimately, that came down to a 10-year fine, which means we got a 90-year reprieve of a huge amount of money. Similarly, for all the licenses, be it fire, be it pollution control, be it food, be it lift, all of them were in arrears. That is our past. And what is our present? All those items are current right now. I have been a member for 32 years now. the food, the tea, the service is the same as before. McDonald's would be proud of you for the quality control you have maintained over the years. My friends, I have a limit of 2 minutes, and since this is my maiden attempt in speaking to the club in general, my president has told me that maintain your 2 minutes. I think my 2 minutes is up. Let's not lament on the past. Let us get together. One last thing which I wanted to point out is this tendency, in legal parlance we call it, suppress your vary and suggest your falsy. It means suppress the facts and make a false suggestion. That seems to be the basis of our deciding on the candidates. On the basis of somebody who has suppressed the fact and made false suggestions. This has got to stop, and the only way it can be stopped is by you exercising your cerebral power. My friends, let's enjoy ourselves. Let's enjoy our festival. Let's thank God and thank the members concerned who have made this event possible today. The future is not ours to see. K. Sarasara. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. Now I would request Mr. Proshun Bhattacharya to come to the podium. Mr. Bhattacharya. He is truly a barman.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My seniors, my juniors, my colleagues, and most important, the new members who have just going to exercise their first franchise ever. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start without wasting time, because right now, just before me, my predecessor was known as the predecessor speaker was known as the president of Lovebirds. Now, he was my Rotary president, and he, I think, gave a very long deliberation. Thank you, Amitabh. I may agree to disagree with him on a couple of points, but that's to be taken in spirit and in facts. I just start, you have with you the last year's AGM. Please turn to page 16 if you have it in your hand. I'll just read it out for your benefit. Proshun Bhattacharya. Can I bring out here the other point, sir? We saw the annual accounts had a certain 40% increase on wages. I am not against my employees, but 40%, and they have been given a retrospective effect where all the committee members did not sign. Now we have a MOP, a manual of procedure, where it says that all committee members must sign if there is any expenditure of over rupees 5 lakhs. Otherwise, it should be brought to the notice of the general body, that is you, me, everybody, that it has not been brought. Mr. President, and please be noted, thank you. President, in fact, today's president, he was officiating as the president there, and also, he says, this is for your information, please. For salary wages, that rule does not apply. I put emphasis on this, what the president declared as a binding issue on all of us, whether rightly or wrongly, but this is the binding effect. I have so many, thank you so much, Mr. Bhattacharya. I have so many other agendas to take up. I said, okay, fine, sir. If the president doesn't allow me to speak, I respect the decorum. That's it, I will not speak. Now, why did I bring this up? Ladies and gentlemen, 3 years back, a very respected senior member If you would remember, those who are old members, they will remember, Nirupam Haldar went into internal audit, found out we had a sort of a MOP which was never practiced. Why? There were allegations that there have been issues which were being brushed under the carpet for far too long. So you, me, we all decided we're going to have a forensic review. We had that review, a wonderful review, wherein it came out that those reports must be with you and you must have gone through it, wherein it came out that not only procedures were not followed, but certain people tried to say procedures were not followed. So, when you don't follow the procedure, you don't get the best court. When the procedure is not followed, you don't get the best quality. When the procedure is not followed, you spend more money than it's worth. This must be understood. There is sort of what usually happens when these elections are on, things going around that, well, that particular thing was nothing much of a scene. A very big scene was made out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing back the tradition this club has. You, me, we all have a responsibility to carry it on, and I think it started 3 years back. We need to keep the tradition in order. I am proud to be a Calcutta Club member. I don't like my dirty linen being washed in public. And I am sure you do not either. So in this respect, a no-nonsense man who would be, or who could be, your president, your committee member, go for them. Because it's unto you today that you will decide the fate of the club, whether it's again going to take an about turn to what it was, or whether you're going to keep on the reforms we had been doing. And I can assure you the accounts do not have a qualification this time. We used to have qualification in accounts. So the finance committee has worked hard to see that it does not happen. So, and because this is connected with the finance committee issue, and I was a member of this, I had to say this publicly. One more thing, I just want to clear. Yes, your service tax case, you have won because of the merits of our own members. And that steps have been taken by this finance committee to ensure we get the best of the legals to get a refund, and the process is on. This income cannot be recognized unless it's put in our hands. That's what the accounting conventions are. So you're not privy to it. But there were questions raised in one of the circles going around, that what happened to that? Why isn't it still in my pocket? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a practitioner myself for 35 years. You don't get an order and instantly the money doesn't come to your pocket. There is a process. That process is on, ladies and gentlemen. And after taking quotations from 3 very distinctive and very reputed CA and legal firms, we have been able to, after 3 sittings, had appointed this body. Now somebody said, no, this was done without anything, without any demo, somebody was appointed. No, sir. This is not somebody's lovebird that has been appointed. Has been appointed by due process, by due cognizance of his reputation, of his court, of his past experience. So ladies and gentlemen, I leave it up to you, whether you'll carry on with tradition or whether you're going to bring in revolution challenges on the fore. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. Now I'd request Mr. Shayan Mukherjee to come to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, management committee members, auditors, and my fellow members. My name is Shayun Mukherjee. I am a qualified chartered accountant. I qualified from Pricewaterhouse almost 40 years ago, worked in various multinational companies, I retired from Bayer Crop Science as Vice President and back in the country. The purpose of me being here today, like in some earlier occasions, is to talk mainly on the financials. So what I'm going to do today is confine myself only to the financials and make it as simple as possible for some of you to understand. I'm sure most of you have read this and seen this in right perspective. So I'm not going to talk about the other affairs of the club, which some of the senior members have spoken, which is a degradation of values and morals and everything which is outside the scope of this immediate accounts. So I start with the accounts itself. Now, this does look gloomy, the present state of affairs, with not much of control being happening on the management front, from the committee's end, as far as the financials concerned. So let me start by negating this with a very optimistic note. I spent the last few weeks, rather last few days also, specifically with the accounts team. And I'm so happy to say that at least we've got a set of people back here who are understanding what is happening and capturing things in perspective. So let me assure you that what is in these financials are actual figures which merit consideration. So we'll take that as the premise and we'll start from there itself, right? So I think I need to re-emphasize the fact that there are issues, there are structural issues which we need to address. And I keep harping on this. I've talked about this earlier. I will revisit this at the end of my conversation and bring out 5 points which all of us must keep at the back of our mind. And I can distribute these points to each of you all so that we can follow up on this over a period of time with whoever takes over as the president. Thank you, Indranil, for understanding this in merit, because also we have 2 sets of chartered accountants in the committee now, and that really helps us to see things in perspective. Okay, so now last year particularly is a bounce back year for us because a lot of things changed from the pandemic year. Unfortunately, in spite of having 31% increase in our total income and 9% increase in members fund, in spite of rejuvenation of activities, we still had an operational loss of 1.3 crores. Now, we agree, and the committee admits, that having operational loss year upon year is hurting us. It's hurting the members fund. It's a depletion of our resources which is taking place. We used to justify this for various reasons, for an equation which we used to formulate at the end saying that, yes, the benefit goes to the members in some form and the club is bearing the loss. I don't think that is the right way to look at it. And I'm saying this because I have seen how it happens in other clubs also. I will come to this individually. But first, the most important part is, why are we having departmental losses? We've got each of our subcommittee members running individual departments, and it's inexcusable that we have departmental losses. And I start this and I tie this back with the initial thing of corporate governance. The accountability of the departments run with each of the committee members who sit in this podium and who we are bringing on every year. Unfortunately, what we get is a report, a committee's report every year. The first 6 pages is with fanciful pictures of activities happening in the club and a committee's report given by members talking about everything apart from costs. None of the committee members talk about what is happening with the costs and whether at all they are being addressed within the budget or otherwise. So why is this happening? We'll come to that secondly. The primary part of this coming onto it is, if the subcommittees are there, if the subcommittees are given budgets every quarter, which when I talk to the accounts, they say we prepare a quarterly report and this is circulated and given to the finance subcommittee every quarter. But there is no percolation of this which is happening to the subcommittees below that. So what is happening? We have the subcommittees meeting, very casual. They meet once or twice a year, could be 4 times a year. I have a report here of we have the maximum number of subcommittees in all the clubs in the city of Kolkata. None of the clubs in Kolkata has we have total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 18 subcommittees. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have a subcommittee also for voice of members. We'll address that later. But we have no subcommittee for food and running of our main coffee room, which has a loss of 1 crore every year. 60 lakhs is the loss which we had this year. But we have no subcommittee who's directly monitoring this as vis-a-vis the costs, vis-a-vis the outcome, vis-a-vis the price increases, vis-a-vis the matching of the cash flow so that the purchases and the price increase and the recoveries happen in order. So this is something which we really need to look at. Why are the subcommittees not being given budgets every quarter? Why are the subcommittees not expressing, like I just give an example. A month back, we were supposed to have a program in Tolly Club and we were supposed to perform there. The CEO of Tolly Club announced this program, and a week before the program, he just negated it. He said, sorry, my sponsor has backed out. For a measly amount of 1.5 lakhs, he was willing to cancel the program. Because every single event has to find its own sponsor, has to make sure there is no burden on the club for managing costs.
Mr. Mukherjee, I would request you to cut short and let us not take reference of other clubs.
I surely will.
This is Calcutta Club AGM.
I surely will.
We should
Okay.
keep that
So
in
now,
mind.
so the
Thank
5
you.
points which we really need to talk about. One is having quarterly budgets, making sure that we have budgets which are circulated to the subcommittees. Whether it's unaudited, it's fine. Even if it's unaudited results of every quarter, this needs to be circulated to committee members. The profit and loss from social activities, the major activities of the club, the international evening, as well as the bakery carnival, they need to be established and given separately. There is no mention of this as the outcome, because this is absorbed in, if you see the departmental losses, the 2 crores of income which comes in gets absorbed, a portion between the departments, and we don't get the final outcome to find out as to how much we are making out of these major events of the club, which is subsidizing other events of the club right through. So it's really, really important that we have a profit and loss of the major events of the club, and this we mentioned specifically in the balance sheet. At the end of the committee report, the board member shall write specifically and mention how he has fared as far as his costs have been concerned for each quarter, cumulative for the year end, for the end of the year. This will give a perspective to all our members to understand where it stands. The last part, which is also someone has talked about, is we should have a grievance cell, which is already there. There is a members cell which is formed, where issues relating to accounts and non-related accounts should be addressed every quarter. We should bring up issues which we feel needs addressing, which is starting from anything. I mean, just the other day I went upstairs and I found that all the lights are switched off. In the main bar, we have a plastic chair sitting in the bar with a gamcha on the chair. The lights of the Hall of Fame is off, and I hear that this is happening right through the week because we are saving electricity costs. This is brilliant. We are looking at the owners of revenue, but we cannot have a club running in a manner in which we say that I will shut off facilities for the members to reduce costs. I would rather have us reaching out to members and getting donations, getting their involvement, raising funds so that we don't have to stay away from normalcy of routine activities of the club. So this is my humble request to you, and Runil, also in one manner. The most important thing which I say is the draft accounts. This is, I've mentioned this earlier, I'm mentioning this again. The tenure of the committee members is 8 months. Luckily, we're having the elections in July. So by August, they will have the house in order and the right set of people in. But they have practically till March to hold themselves accountable. So the period of April, May, June, July, 4 months, there is no visible accountability per se from any of the committee members. So we should be having a separate set of accounts which is audited and given to us as a subset of accounts where we understand what the processes were in these 4 months within this period of 12 months. Because then the accountability will come in also. Because normally, if you look at it, 30% of yearly spends happen in these 4 months. And that should not be happening really, because the committee ends their term on 31st of March of 2023. So I really request These 5 points, I will circulate this and put it as an official mail to the President. If you can address this, I'll be more than happy. And thank you. I just overshot
Thank you,
my
Mr.
time.
Mukherjee. Thank you very much for your valuable suggestions. Regarding the erosion of members' capital, I would request the next committee to find out ways to identify avenues from which more revenues can be generated, so that erosion of members' fund can be prevented. And regarding that budget, definitely, I'm sure the next committee is going to follow a proper budgetary system. They would make budgets and try to follow that, stick to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
May I request the next speaker, Dr. Parthopratim Gupta, to come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very good afternoon to all the members present here. If you don't know me, I'm a member since 1995. Was once a committee member when Mr. Pradipta Banerjee was the president. We did some work for the club to rejuvenate, of which one is still continuing, that's the 80-side cricket. Revamp the swimming pool, but as people are talking about degradation or whatever about the club, the swimming pool is in a very bad shape. It needs a coat of paint, which perhaps the club couldn't afford. Now, I would request you to just look up to the so-called chandeliers, which is there since Sir R.N. Mukherjee. Few of them doesn't have the chain even. They're full of dusts. And that exactly represents what Calcutta Club is. And number one is that this year, I think it touched the nadir about, contestants with their photographs, somebody calling a person rogue, a contestant who is also an existing committee member calls a chubby cheeks. Are we gone back to the school days? Even my grandson of 5 years would laugh at it. And nobody takes onus and doesn't have the courage to write that, yes, supposing I don't like Mr. X, I'll write Mr. X is a rogue, he is absolutely incompetent, and lastly I will write Dr. Parthopratim Gupta, my membership number, and then circulate it to the members. We have that class of members who would go into such kind of mudslinging, and we are a laughing stock in the other clubs that I'm a member with. What is happening to our club? And secondly, my point is, suspension is the rule of the day for Calcutta Club. Every year we find a lot of people getting suspended. Fair enough. But if you really suspend someone as members, well, we accept it that yes, my friend is suspended. But then put in a clause that they can't contest the elections in the ensuing year. At least for 1 year, debar them from coming to contest. That makes sense, that really you suspended a member for some valid reasons. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. The club committee cannot stop, anonymous communications, but you would appreciate that we have sent mails to the members. We have communicated with them not to take note of those anonymous mails or other messages on the social media. May I now request the last speaker, Mr. Pradipta Banerjee, to take the podium. Last speaker of this evening, of this afternoon.
Mr. President, members of the committee and my fellow members, I thought I would take a little time again on a matter that some of the speakers before me have already covered, but still it's worth looking at. A few years ago, we had a frenzy of scandal mongering, almost like we had till yesterday. At that time, we were really involved and we took a very strong decision, and voted out most of the committee. So we got a fresh committee. Now, our club is a very complicated institution. There are a large number of activities, and any newcomer takes time to understand all aspects and all issues. As a result, we had the first operating loss in many, many years that year, and since then operating losses have continued. But now, we've had a string of operating losses, and we have a very critical activity ahead, the renewal of the lease. So this is a time when we don't really need further learning. Now we need action and management. So my request to all of you is that when you vote today, let's vote for people who know a little bit about the club, who seem competent, at least as far as we have seen, and seem capable of doing more. And finally, have a commitment to the club. I mean, I know it does sound like management jargon, but you're looking at 4 C's. Club, whether they know about the club or not, competence in whatever they have done so far. Certainly we can't be absolute judges, but we have an idea of what people have done so far, and that gives us an idea of their competence. It also gives us an idea whether we feel in our gut that they are capable of taking on more. We need such people. And finally, we need persons committed. So let's cast our vote taking these factors into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. I am happy to announce the appointment of the 2 scrutineers, namely Mr. Deep Narayan Mitro and Mr. Probal Kumar Mukherjee, for the election process under Article 34D of the Articles of Association of the Club. Both of them are familiar to all of you. I'd request Mr. Mitra and Mr. Mukherjee to please come forward. Thank you, Mr. Deepnaran Mitra and Mr. Probal Kumar Mukherjee. May I request the CEO and Secretary of the club, Mr. Kanchan Kanti Jana, to accompany them and take them around the balloting centers. Mr. Jana, please. We are now ready to take up the last item of the agenda, namely to elect a president and the new committee in accordance with Article 34A of the Articles of Association. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you are aware that our club follows a hybrid system of voting. E-voting was introduced in the year 2020, and since then, NSDL has been entrusted with the job. This year, we have moved away from the conventional paper ballot voting to electronic mode. The entire system is being taken care by NSDL. There are 4 candidates for the post of the president, namely Mr. Kumar Shankar Datta, Mr. Arjun De, Mr. Abhijit Ghosh, and Mr. Utpal Majumdar. Would someone please propose and second them? Mr. Kumar Shankar Datta, proposed by Mr. Deepak Datta, seconded by Mr. Anindo Molle. Mr. Arjun De, may I have a proposal? Mr. Shumit Deb, seconder, Mr. Kollan Chaudhary. Mr. Abhijit Ghosh, may I have a proposer? Mr. Jayanto Bosch, seconder, Mr. Subrato Ghosh. Mr. Utpal Majumdar, may I have a proposer? May I have a proposer, please? Mr. Somnath Banerjee, seconded by Mr. Arvind Agarwal. I will now read out the name of the candidates who have consented to serve to the committee as a member for the year 2023-24. Mr. Snehashish Bhomik, may I have a proposer? Mr. Arup Gupta, seconder, Mr. Shumit Deb. Mr. Debashish Adon Bosch, may I have a proposer? Mr. Jayanto Bosch, seconder, Mr. D.P. Ganguly. Mr. Kaushik Chatterjee, proposer, please. Mr. Bikram Bhaskar Gangopadhyay, seconder, Dr. Shantanu Banerjee. Ms. Anushua Das, proposer, please. Mr. Shomesh Bose, seconder Mr. Subrato Bhaumik, Mr. Prashant Kumar Dutt, proposer Mr. Ramen Addi, seconder Mr. Amitabh Mukherjee, Mr. Sudeep Kumar Dotto, proposer Mr. Devashish Barat, seconder Mr. Dr. Shomoresh Gupta, Ms. Sharbani Ghosh, proposer Mr. Shubhajit Guho, seconder Mr. Chiroprato Mojumdar, Mr. Adip Kumar Gupta, may I have a proposer please? Mr. Shayan Mukherjee, seconder Mr. Tuhin Chatterjee, Mr. Arga Kumar Mitra, proposer please. Mr. Shondeep Ghosh, seconder Mr. Shubhajit Guho, Mr. Pradeep Kumar Mitra, proposer please. Dr. Shantanu Banerjee, seconder Mr. Shomesh Bose, Mr. Pradeep Kumar Nimani, may I have a proposer please? Dr. Partho Bandopadhyay, seconder Mr. D.P. Ganguly, Ms. Kosturi Raha, proposer please. Mr. Taposh Raha, seconder. Mr. Shankar Mojumdar, Mr. Ramaditya Ray, proposer please. Mr. Siddhartha Sadhan Bose, seconder. Mr. Pradeep Dasgupta. Dear members, all of you must have received a communication from the club requesting not to carry out any campaigning activity for any candidate inside the club premises. I would request all the members, candidates and their observers to maintain decorum of the club. Further, I would request the CEO and Secretary, Mr. Kanchankanti Jana, and GM Operations, Mr. Somnath Mukherjee, to ensure that no such campaigning takes place at the entrance. Since there is, please do not forget to vote all the above items of the agenda. Since there is plenty of time, I request particularly those who are going to vote virtually not to rush immediately to vote, as this might create a congestion in the system. If you face any problem in connecting, please wait a little and try again. The election will start at 3 p.m. and will continue till 10 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned till 11 p.m. this evening. I repeat, this meeting is adjourned till 11 p.m. this evening at the same venue when the results of the election will be announced. You can now go ahead and cast your votes. Thank you very much. চা খাওয়াবে আমার